Okay, so in our last lesson, we talked about weathering. Today, we're going to talk about erosion and deposition. So they kind of happen in that order. You have weathering, and then erosion, and then deposition. So to review weathering, that's the breaking down of rocks. So weathering is when small pieces of rock break off. Then we have erosion and deposition. So weathering, the small pieces of rock have broken off. Erosion is when those weathered materials, when those small pieces of rock or small sediments are carried away. So weathering breaks the rock and sediment down. Erosion carries it away. So we can have wind erosion or we can have water erosion. So think about in the desert, the wind, we've got pieces of sediment broken off. The wind's just going to carry them away. Water erosion, very similar to water weathering. The river is going to carry sediment away. That's how the Grand Canyon was formed. So the Grand Canyon was formed over years of the river carrying the weathered sediment away. Waterfalls are an example of water erosion. As they go down over rocks that are, weathering, they're going to carry that sediment away. And then again, ice. Glaciers, especially glaciers, can carry sediment. So rocks are weathered. The erosion carries them away. And then deposition, if you'll look, I boxed in the word deposit. So if you deposit money in your bank account, you are putting it there. You're dropping it off. That's what deposition does. So we have all this sediment and this weathered material that erosion's carried away. Deposition is when it gets dropped, gets put somewhere. So as this sediment, this weathered material gets dropped in left places, it can form a couple different things. So it can form deltas, river deltas, or where there's just piles of sediment. And so that causes rivers, as years go, it changes the path of the water, because as more materials, more sediment are being deposited as deposition happens, there's piles that grow up on the river floor, and so the water kind of has to move around it. So when you see really windy rivers, they're really old rivers because there's been a lot of deposition. Another example of deposition are your sandy beaches. So when you go to the ocean, when you go to the lake, wherever, when you have sandy beaches, that's deposition. That's deposited sand, deposited material that's been weathered and eroded over years and years and years. So it's a process. It's weathering, breaks down the sediment, erosion carries it away, deposition drops it somewhere new.